It's already one of the most dangerous spiders in the world, and tonight a funnel web found in Newcastle is making history. Hercules, the spider, sets a new record for the largest funnel web ever found.
An Oconee County mother recovering after being bit by a venomous spider.
This woman says she almost lost the use of her limbs.
Spiders, the tiny eight-legged creatures that somehow manage to terrify even the bravest of us. But what if I told you that not all spiders are the size of a quarter or the occasional, I don't know how it got in here, house spider? No, my friend. Some spiders are massive, so large in fact that they could probably challenge your pet cat for space on the couch. Imagine walking through a forest and suddenly finding yourself face to face with a spider whose leg span could rival the length of your arm. Not only is it big, but it probably has a predatory stare that screams, "I run this jungle now." The thought might send shivers down your spine, but believe it or not, these giant arachnids exist and are living their best lives in some of the most remote corners of the globe. So if you think the spires in your bathroom are the stuff of nightmares, wait until you meet the true giants of the arachnid world. From spiders that can snatch up birds mid-fight to ones that can give your car's windshield a run for its money in terms of sheer surface coverage, these 20 biggest spiders in the world are here to show you that size truly does matter, especially when you're creeping around on 8 legs. Ready for a hair-raising journey into the land of oversized arachnids? Let's dive in, if you dare. Number 20. Goliath bird-eating tarantula Theraphosa blondie. If you thought your house spider was the stuff of nightmares, think again. Meet the Goliath bird-eating tarantula, Theraphosa blondie, a creature so massive that it could probably carry a sign that reads, "You're in my territory now." This 8-legged monster can grow to a staggering 12 inches across, which is roughly the size of a dinner plate. A dinner plate. And that's not even counting the weight, which can tip the scales at around 6 ounces. Roughly the same as a small hamster. So if you ever find one of these furry giants in your backyard, you might want to reconsider calling it a pet. The Goliath bird-eating tarantula is not exactly the kind of creature you'd want to meet on a tropical vacation. It resides deep in the rainforest of South America, particularly in countries like Brazil, Guyana, and Venezuela. If you ever find yourself trekking through these jungles, remember to watch the ground, as you could be walking over one of these oversized arachnids without even knowing it. And trust me, you don't want to find out the hard way. While the Goliath bird-eating tarantula may sound like a nightmare waiting to happen, it's actually not as deadly as its name implies. Its bite can be painful, but it's not likely to be life-threatening to humans. Its venom is relatively mild, just enough to incapacitate smaller prey, like birds, hence the name. But don't get too comfy. This spider can launch urticating hairs from its abdomen that can cause irritation to the skin and eyes. So while it's not deadly, it's still a whole lot of nope in germs of a friendly encounter. So next time you hear a rustle in the trees, just remember, it could be a bird, or it could be the Goliath bird-eating tarantula, eyeing you up for its next meal. Bon appetit. Number 19. Giant huntsman spider. If you've ever felt uneasy about a spider, you might want to close your eyes and take a deep breath before learning about the giant huntsman spider, the arachnid equivalent of a horror movie villain with 8 legs and 0 remorse. This spider is so big it could probably get its own seat on an airplane. With a leg span reaching up to 12 inches, that's the size of a dinner plate, folks, the giant huntsman is practically a spider celebrity. If you think your regular house spiders are a nuisance, imagine opening your closet and finding this beast chilling on your shirt. Or worse, crawling on your face while you sleep. Yikes. But don't worry, or maybe do worry if you're terrified of spiders. The giant huntsman spider is typically found in the rainforests of Laos and northern parts of Vietnam. So unless you're planning a trip to Southeast Asia, you're safe. It's not the kind of spider that strolls into your kitchen uninvited at a BBQ. When it comes to danger, the giant huntsman is not exactly a killer. In fact, it's not venomous to humans at all. If it bites you, it might hurt, but only because it's got the strength to pierce skin with its sharp fangs. Its venom is more like a severe hangover for its prey, mostly insects which it catches with lightning-fast reflexes. The real danger? The fear it instills in your soul when you spot it. It's like the Shaquille O'Neal of spiders, massive, intimidating, and definitely better left in the wild. So while it won't likely send you to the ER, encountering a giant huntsman spider could send you to the nearest exit at top speed. Number 18. Mysore ornamental tarantula. If you've ever wondered what happens when a spider decides it's too fabulous to blend in, meet the Mysore ornamental tarantula, Poecilotheria striata, a creature so stunningly beautiful it could easily land a modeling contract if it weren't for the whole 8 legs and venom thing. With its vibrant patterns and iridescent hues, this tarantula looks like it stepped straight out of a fantasy novel. But don't be fooled by its looks. This spider is as terrifying as it is gorgeous. The Mysore ornamental tarantula calls the rainforests of southern India home, where it spends its time hanging out in trees like a true diva. Its native habitat is lush and humid, perfect for a spider that wants to be the center of attention, but prefers to stay up high, away from the hustle and bustle of the ground. This spider isn't exactly the hangout at your local park kind of arachnid. No, it's more like the keep to itself in remote tropical places kind of diva. Now let's talk about danger, because no spider, no matter how pretty, is complete without a little bit of menace. The Mysore ornamental tarantula packs a punch with its venom. While its bite isn't usually fatal to humans, it will definitely ruin your day. The venom can cause severe pain, swelling, and discomfort. So if you're planning to strike up a friendship, maybe keep your distance. And while it's not known for being particularly aggressive, it's still a spider with a strong sense of personal space. Do not invade it. But let's be real here. The Mysore ornamental tarantula is less about terrifying attacks and more about being the most fabulous and mildly dangerous spider on the block. So while it might not give you a warm hug, it sure does look amazing doing its own thing from the treetops. Keep your distance, admire from afar, and maybe get yourself a spider-themed blanket for extra flair. Number 17. Sand-dwelling huntsman spider. Imagine a spider so sneaky, so stealthy, that it spends its entire life blending into the sand like a tiny ninja with 8 legs. Meet the sand-dwelling huntsman spider, the arachnid that could be a Bond villain if it had a tuxedo and a top hat. This particular huntsman is a master of disguise, burrowing itself in the warm sands of Australia's desert regions. Picture it. One minute, the ground looks harmless. The next, you're standing on the world's most massive and slightly terrifying hidden spider. If you're in the Australian outback, there's a good chance that one of these giants is lurking just beneath your feet, waiting for you to take the wrong step. And it's not a cute little spider either. It can grow up to 6 inches across, about the size of a small saucer. That's a lot of spider to suddenly discover during your hike, especially when it springs from the sand like an oversized, 8-legged trapdoor spider. But don't get too scared just yet. While this sand-dwelling arachnid is absolutely huge, it's also pretty chill. Unlike its more aggressive cousins, the sand-dwelling huntsman is not likely to jump at you with fangs bared. Its bite is venomous, but only in the sense that it would sting a little, like a severe mosquito bite. It's not in the business of turning you into a mutant spider person, thankfully. Still, that doesn't mean you want to give it a high five. These spiders may be shy, but when they do come out, they move fast, and that's enough to send any sane person into a full sprint. After all, who wouldn't run from something that big, even if it's mostly harmless? Number 16. Brazilian wandering spider, Phoneutria. Meet the Brazilian wandering spider, also known as Phoneutria. And let me tell you, this little guy isn't just a spider, it's a walking nightmare with fangs and a penchant for causing panic in the hearts of anyone who crosses its path. If the phrase "don't mess with this one" had a face, it would look like this spider. Found mostly in Brazil, surprise, surprise, and parts of Central and South America, the Brazilian wandering spider is not the type to sit quietly in a corner waiting for prey. No, this spider is a night stalker, literally wandering the forest floor at night in search of dinner. or perhaps just a good scare for any poor, unsuspecting human it stumbles upon. It has massive legs. We're talking a span of up to 8 inches, about the size of a small hand. So if you're hiking through the Amazon or relaxing in your tropical vacation Airbnb, the Brazilian wandering spider might just be lurking somewhere nearby, looking for its next big adventure. Now, here's the kicker. It's one of the most venomous spiders on Earth. Its bite can cause all kinds of trouble, including intense pain, nausea, and, in extreme cases, death. Yep, it's as dangerous as it sounds. But don't panic just yet. The Brazilian wandering spider is not a fan of humans and tends to avoid us as much as possible. So, unless you're poking it with a stick or trying to make it your pet, please don't. It's probably more interested in the smaller creatures it hunts, like insects and even small lizards. In conclusion, the Brazilian wandering spider is massive, dangerous, and definitely not the type of house guest you want. So if you're ever in Brazil, just remember, keep your shoes on, your feet off the ground, and your heart in check. Because while this spider might not come looking for trouble, it's certainly good at making it. Number 15. King baboon spider. If you've ever dreamed of being ruled by a giant spider overlord, your wish might just come true. Meet the king baboon spider, the arachnid monarch that reigns supreme over the wilds of Africa. With a leg span that can reach up to 6 inches, this creature is basically the Shaquille O'Neal of the spider world, if Shaq was covered in hair and lived in a burrow. Found mostly in the savannas and dry forests of West Africa, the king baboon spider is one spider you do not want to invite to dinner. It's called a baboon spider for a reason. The hairy legs resemble the fuzzy manes of baboons, and the spider itself is just as intimidating. With its bold appearance and an ability to move fast enough to send you into a panic, it's like the arachnid version of a medieval knight. Powerful, a little scary, and definitely not interested in your friendship. Despite its fearsome name and size, the king baboon spider isn't out there hunting humans for fun. It's not venomous enough to cause death, thankfully, but if it bites you, prepare for some pain, swelling, and maybe a touch of regret. Its venom is meant to subdue small prey like insects and frogs, but when it comes to humans, it's more about the painful reminder that spiders are, indeed, creatures to be feared. But here's the thing. The king baboon spider would much rather mind its own business. It's not one to chase you down. If anything, it would prefer to burrow into the ground and avoid your face entirely. So if you're ever in Africa and you spot one, just keep your distance and let this royal spider rule its tiny kingdom in peace. After all, in the world of giant, scary spiders, the king baboon spider is practically royalty. Number 14. Grammostola anthracina. When you think of a big, scary spider, you probably imagine something lurking in the corners of your home or a spider that jumps out of nowhere to ruin your day. But have you met the Grammostola anthracina? This mega-sized, hairy, and ridiculously chill tarantula is the spider that just sits back, relaxes, and looks too cool to care. Found in the dry forests of South America, particularly in Paraguay and Argentina, the Grammostola anthracina is like the rock star of the spider world. It's a giant, with a leg span that can reach up to 8 inches. That's about the size of your average burrito. But despite its massive size, this spider isn't exactly a public menace. It's the laid-back guy at the spider party, just minding its own business and chilling in its burrow, looking like it owns the place. Now, don't let its chill demeanor fool you into thinking it's harmless. The Grammostola anthracina has a powerful bite, but here's the catch. It's not really interested in biting you unless you're seriously provoking it, which really, why would you? While its venom is potent enough to immobilize small prey like insects and lizards, it's generally not dangerous to humans. If it does bite, it's more like a severe bee sting. Painful, annoying, but not life-threatening. So, in conclusion, the Grammostola anthracina is like that big, grumpy neighbor who never bothers anyone unless you mess with their garden. As long as you give this giant a wide berth, it'll just continue to be the cool, unbothered arachnid it was born to be. Just don't ask it for a hug, it probably doesn't do those. Number 13. Brazilian bird-eating tarantula Lasiodora parahybina. Let's talk about Grammostola anthracina, also known as the Chaco golden knee, a spider so big it might have its own agent and a multi-million-dollar deal in Hollywood. Native to the dry, dusty lands of South America, particularly Paraguay, Argentina, and Bolivia, this eight-legged diva isn't shy about making a statement. First things first, the size. If you think the spiders under your couch are scary, brace yourself. Grammostola anthracina can grow up to 8 inches, about 20 centimeters in leg span. To put it in perspective, that's like a tarantula the size of a small dinner plate. A massive furry dinner plate with fangs, no less. Picture a small puppy but with more legs and fewer cuddles. But don't panic. While it might look like something straight out of a horror movie, Grammostola anthracina is actually pretty chill. It's not the attack you in your sleep kind of spider. Despite its size and intimidating appearance, it's more into leisurely strolls and staring longingly at the horizon. While capable of delivering a venomous bite, it's not deadly to humans, though the bite may cause some local irritation and swelling. Think of it as the spider equivalent of a mild scolding. This spider's real talent? Being absolutely fabulous at hiding. Unlike some of its flashier, more aggressive cousins, the Chaco golden knee prefers to lurk in burrows, emerging only to eat and show off its gleaming golden leg markings to anyone who dares take a peek. So, while Grammostola anthracina may be enormous and slightly intimidating, it's really just a giant, not-so-dangerous arachnid with a flair for the dramatic. Still, if you spot one in the wild, maybe don't try to pet it. It's not looking for new friends. Number 12. Poecilotheria rajaei. If you're a fan of spiders that make you want to question every inch of your personal space, then meet Poecilotheria rajaei, also known as the Sri Lankan ornamental tree spider. This 8-legged wonder is one of the larger tarantulas, and if size matters to you when it comes to arachnids, this spider will certainly measure up. With a leg span that can stretch up to 8 inches, that's nearly the size of your average dinner plate, you might want to rethink how much you love your rainforest-themed living room decor. Native to Sri Lanka, the P. rajaei is a true showstopper in the spider world, flaunting a stunning color palette of purples, oranges, and blacks that would make even the boldest of fashionistas envious. Think of it as the high fashion of spiders. Its intricate markings could be mistaken for a designer print if only you weren't looking at it through the protective glass of a terrarium. It's like if a rainbow had a scary cousin who also moonlights as a deadly assassin. Despite its stunning looks, this spider has a reputation that could make even the bravest cringe. Its venom is potent, and while not usually fatal to humans, a bite from P. rajaei can cause serious pain, swelling, and general discomfort. The venom works quickly, so if you find yourself in a sticky situation, literally and figuratively, it's best to seek medical attention pronto. Here's a fun fact. Poecilotheria rajaei is a tree dweller. Yes, this spider would rather climb a tree and chill at dizzying heights than make itself comfortable on the ground. I guess it's not just a spider, it's also a tree hugger with a killer instinct. So next time you see one, remember, pretty but don't touch. Number 11. Chaco golden knee. When you think of intimidating creatures, your mind might wander to the usual suspects: lions, sharks, or even the occasional angry toddler. But let's not forget the Chaco golden knee, a spider that not only strikes fear into the hearts of those with arachnophobia, but also boasts enough wow factor to make even the bravest of souls reconsider their life choices. Native to the rainforests of South America, particularly Argentina and Paraguay, this spider is about as big as your hand. Yes, you read that right. With legs stretching up to 8 inches, the Chaco golden knee is the Beyoncé of tarantulas. If spiders had a red carpet, this one would own it. Its golden yellow markings on its legs give it the appearance of a spider who just came from a spa day. And frankly, we should all aspire to be that fabulous. Now let's get one thing straight. Despite its size, the Chaco golden knee is a big softie. It's not out there hunting humans or plotting world dominance. In fact, it's mostly harmless to us, with venom that's more of a mild irritant than a life-threatening toxin. If you get bitten, which is unlikely unless you're poking it with a stick, expect some mild pain, swelling, and perhaps an existential crisis, but nothing to panic about. The real surprise? This spider can live up to 25 years in captivity. That's right, an arachnid with the life expectancy of a pensioner. So if you ever adopt one, just know it's a long-term commitment. Your new 8-legged roommate could be sticking around for decades. So while the Chaco golden knee may look like something out of a horror movie, it's more of a celebrity spider than a menace. It's big, it's bold, and it has more patience than most of us have for Monday mornings. Number 10. Cerbalus aravaensis. Meet Cerbalus aravaensis, a spider so big it might as well have its own zip code. Native to the hot, arid regions of the Negev Desert in Israel and Jordan, this 8-legged marvel can grow up to 5 inches long, about the size of a small sandwich, depending on your hand size and appetite. With its long, gangly legs and startlingly large fangs, this spider looks like it's ready to take on the world, one sand dunes at a time. But before you start having nightmares, let's clear something up. Cerbalus aravaensis is not dangerous to humans. Despite its intimidating size, it's a relatively docile creature. Its venom, though potent enough to subdue prey like insects and small lizards, isn't a threat to people. If you happen to get bitten, which, let's be honest, would require some serious bad decisions on your part, you can expect some mild pain and swelling, but nothing that'll ruin your weekend plans. Now here's where it gets really surprising. This spider is fast. We're talking Usain Bolt fast. It can sprint across the desert floor with incredible speed, a trait that's especially handy when avoiding predators or hunting down dinner. Imagine a spider in a race against a cheetah, except instead of running on 4 legs, it's running on 8. And honestly, it probably looks cooler doing it. Most commonly found in the desert's rocky, sandy crevices, the Cerbalus aravaensis is a stealthy desert dweller, hiding out during the day and coming out at night to stalk its prey. So, if you're ever in the Negev, don't be surprised if you spot one of these fast-moving, mildly terrifying arachnids. Just don't try to outrun it, you'll lose. Number 9. Face-sized tarantula. Ever thought, I wish my pet spider was the size of my face? Well, Theraphosa blondi, also known as the Goliath birdeater, has you covered. This tarantula is so massive that if it were any bigger, it would be wearing your shoes and eating your snacks. With leg spans that can reach up to 12 inches, this giant arachnid could technically be used as a dinner plate, but we strongly advise against trying that. Who needs a salad bowl when you have an 8-legged fuzzy disc of terror? Native to the rainforests of northern South America, particularly in Venezuela, Brazil, and Guyana, the Goliath birdeater is the largest tarantula in the world. But don't let its size fool you into thinking it's looking for human-sized meals. It's not planning to have you for lunch. In fact, despite its intimidating name and its face-sized presence, this spider prefers eating insects, frogs, small lizards, and yes, occasionally small birds, but it's not that picky. Here's the kicker. Goliath birdeater venom is less like a leave me in agony kind of poison and more like a mild ouch that stings sensation. It's mostly harmless to humans, though you may want to stock up on ice packs and prepare for some swelling if it does bite. Think of it as a particularly frustrated mosquito. Surprising fact? The Goliath birdeater can live for up to 25 years in captivity, meaning that if you adopt one, you'll have a creepy, furry roommate for a quarter of a century. So if you're looking for long-term commitment in the world of terrifyingly large arachnids, this might just be your new best friend. In short, this spider is big, bold, and somewhat misunderstood. Not dangerous, but definitely the type you don't want to meet on your pillow. Number 8. Hercules baboon spider. Meet the Hercules baboon spider, a creature that looks like it spends its weekends lifting weights and flexing in the mirror. Native to the savannas and forests of East and Central Africa, this tarantula is not just big, it's the gym enthusiast of the spider world. With a leg span reaching up to 6 inches, it's the kind of spider that could probably bench press your entire lunch. But don't let the Hercules part of its name fool you. It doesn't need to wear a cape to be intimidating. Its powerful legs are covered in dense, bristly hairs, and its body has the rugged, muscular look of a creature that could give even the toughest bugs a run for their money. While it's not the biggest spider in the world, the Goliath bird-eater takes that crown. The Hercules baboon spider is definitely a contender in the "don't mess with me" category. Now, the surprising part, while this spider is indeed a predator, it's not a danger to humans. Despite its fearsome appearance, its venom is mild, causing only minor discomfort if it happens to bite, which, to be clear, is highly unlikely unless you're being particularly aggressive. So, while it might look like it's plotting world dominance, it's really just after small insects like beetles and crickets for dinner. And here's the fun fact. Hercules baboon spiders can live for up to 10-15 years in captivity. That's a solid decade of having a hairy, muscle-bound roommate that doesn't need a gym membership to show off its strength. You may not want one on your face, but if you're ever in Central Africa and spot one hanging out, just remember, it's more misunderstood bodybuilder than creepy nightmare. So, while it may be large, it's also pretty chill. Just don't ask it to help you move. Number 7. Goliath bird-eater. Say hello to Theraphosa blondi, also known as the Goliath bird-eater, the arachnid equivalent of a linebacker. This spider is so big it could probably take you in a race, a staring contest, and definitely in a game of who can eat the biggest bug. With legs that can span up to 12 inches, this is one spider that doesn't need a magnifying glass to make an impression. It's big enough to slap you across the face with a single leg. Native to the rainforests of northern South America, particularly in Brazil, Venezuela, and Guyana, the Goliath bird-eater has earned its name not because it actually goes around eating birds, though it will occasionally snack on one, but because it can physically handle the size of a small bird. But before you start fearing for your life and wondering if it's time to move to the moon, let's put things in perspective. It's not after you. It prefers things like insects, frogs, and small lizards for dinner. Birds are just an occasional "why not" choice on the menu. Despite its jaw-dropping size and terrifying appearance, the Goliath bird-eater is not dangerous to humans. Its venom is less deadly predator and more mild irritation. You might experience some pain, swelling, or an uncomfortable twinge of regret, but you won't be calling in sick for a week. In fact, these spiders are generally pretty chill, spending most of their time minding their own business, just chilling out in burrows and living their best 25-year life. Surprise fact: the Goliath bird-eater's diet includes something called vegetarian food. Yep, it sometimes munches on fruit, which is pretty rare for a giant predator. So if you're lucky enough to meet one, from a safe distance of course, you might catch it nibbling on an apple rather than chasing you down the street. In short, big, bold, and pretty harmless, unless you're a bug or a bird. Number 6. The Brazilian wandering spider. Meet the Poecilotheria, also known as the Brazilian wandering spider, the arachnid equivalent of a world-class traveler. This 8-legged adventurer doesn't hang out in one place. No, it's out there wandering, roaming around the jungles and forests of South America like it's on an eternal vacation. And by wandering, we mean this spider has no problem crawling into your shoes, under your couch, or even on your face if you're unlucky. But let's talk size. The Brazilian wandering spider can stretch up to 5 inches in leg span. It's not the biggest spider in the world, but it's certainly big enough to make your heart skip a beat if it shows up uninvited to your next camping trip. You can find this arachnid across Brazil, Venezuela, Ecuador, and other parts of South America, typically in the foliage and on the ground. So maybe don't walk barefoot through the jungle. You've been warned. Now here's where it gets interesting. Despite its terrifying reputation and potential to give you nightmares, this spider is not as dangerous as people think. Sure, it's venomous, but the Brazilian wandering spider's bite can cause intense pain, swelling, and temporary paralysis. Basically a very unpleasant time, but it's rarely fatal. If you're bitten, the worst-case scenario is a trip to the doctor for some anti-venom, and a few days of feeling like you've just completed an obstacle course designed by an angry circus clown. A surprising fact? This spider is a superstar in the world of research. Its venom contains a neurotoxin that has been studied for potential use in pain relief and even erectile dysfunction treatments. Yes, this terrifying creature might actually help you out with your other problems. So while the Brazilian wandering spider is certainly intimidating, it's really just a misunderstood traveler with a penchant for disappearing into the shadows, and maybe a little bit of help for your health. Number 5. Colombian giant tarantula. Meet the Colombian giant tarantula, a creature so massive it makes your average tarantula look like a housefly. Native to the rainforests of Colombia, this spider is not just big, it's the type of spider that could probably qualify for a free airline seat because it takes up way too much room in the overhead compartment. With leg spans reaching up to 9 inches, this 8-legged wonder isn't just strolling around, it's practically moonwalking through the jungle like it owns the place. But don't let its enormous size and slightly terrifying looks fool you. This tarantula isn't plotting your demise. In fact, it's a fairly chill customer, spending most of its time chilling in burrows or hanging out on tree trunks, looking for insects, small lizards, and the occasional frog to munch on. So, if you're thinking it's out to eat you for dinner, relax. It's probably not interested in you, unless you're a particularly large cricket. And even then, the Colombian giant tarantula might give you a long, fierce look before deciding you're just a little too much work. Now here's the fun part. This spider does have venom, but don't panic. It's not a death sentence. Its bite can cause some pain, redness, and swelling, but it's nothing more dramatic than a severe mosquito bite. In fact, the real danger is probably just stepping on one in the dark or finding it staring at you from your sock drawer. Surprising fact? Despite its fearsome size and occasional dramatic hair-raising display, it can flick itchy hairs at enemies. The Colombian giant tarantula is not dangerous to humans. It's just big, bold, and fabulous, kind of like the diva of the tarantula world. So next time you're trekking through Colombia's rainforest, just remember, this spider is big, but it's mostly just hanging out, waiting for snack time. Number 4. The Brazilian giant tawny red tarantula. Meet the Brazilian giant tawny red tarantula, a spider so big it might just be the world's worst roommate. With legs that can stretch up to 8 inches, this giant arachnid would make even the most seasoned spider phobe break a sweat. Native to the jungles of Brazil, this creature doesn't hide in the shadows. It owns the floor like it's starring in its own action movie. Imagine a dinner plate, but with 8 hairy legs and a fuzzy body, and you've got yourself a visual of this giant's size. Now let's get the big question out of the way. Is it dangerous? The answer is, not really. Despite its intimidating name and size, the Brazilian giant tawny red tarantula isn't looking to turn you into its next meal. Sure, it has venom, but it's not a drop-everything-and-panic situation. If you get bitten, which is unlikely since these spiders tend to be pretty chill unless you provoke them, you might experience some pain, swelling, or the feeling that you made a regrettable life choice, but nothing to write home about. Think of it more like a really, really bad bee sting that you might end up overreacting to. These tarantulas are mostly found in the rainforests of Brazil, where they live in burrows or under rocks and trees. They spend most of their time just hanging out, minding their own business, and looking for bugs to snack on, small frogs, insects, or even the occasional lizard. They're not aggressive and, in fact, would probably prefer to run away from you rather than fight. So, while the Brazilian giant tawny red tarantula may look like a fierce jungle predator, it's really just a laid-back, oversized arachnid with an appetite for small critters and a big love for personal space. Keep your distance and you'll be fine. Number 3. Camel spider. If you've ever heard someone mention the camel spider and thought, that sounds like something from a nightmare, well, congratulations, you're correct. This creature is massive, fast, and about as terrifying as a spider can get without actually having laser beams for eyes. Native to the deserts of the Middle East, North Africa, and parts of Asia, the camel spider has a reputation that precedes it, and not for the right reasons. Let's talk size. The camel spider can grow up to 6 inches long, which might not sound huge, but remember, we're talking about a spider with legs that look like they could be used as coat hangers. It's like the Spider-Man of the arachnid world, if Spider-Man were really angry, lived in a desert, and had giant jaws. Camel spiders are also fast, and when I say fast, I mean they can run up to 10 miles per hour. That's faster than most people can sprint, and certainly faster than you could run if one of these beasts suddenly decided your feet looked tasty. Picture it. You're running from a spider faster than you can run from it. But here's the good news. Despite all the terrifying hype, camel spiders are not dangerous to humans. Sure, they have huge pincers that can give you a fright, and may pinch a bit if you're too close, but their bite is mostly harmless. They're not venomous like your typical dangerous spider, so while their size and speed might freak you out, you don't need to worry about your life flashing before your eyes if one gets too close. Camel spiders prefer to hang out in desert climates, hunting insects, small animals, and sometimes the occasional unlucky lizard. They're nocturnal, which is just another reason to stay indoors after dark. Who needs that kind of energy in their life? In short, camel spiders may look like the kind of creature you'd expect to find in a bad sci-fi movie, but they're not the worst thing you'll encounter. They're just swift and a bit dramatic, kind of like the track star of the spider world. Number 2. Brazilian salmon pink bird-eating tarantula. Say hello to the Brazilian salmon pink bird-eating tarantula, a creature so massive it could probably have its own reality TV show. With a leg span of up to 8 inches, this spider is less of a tiny critter and more of a just found a new place to sit in your living room kind of arachnid. Native to the Brazilian rainforests, this tarantula is living large. Think of it as the rock star of the spider world, with legs longer than your patience when your Wi-Fi is slow. Now you might be thinking, but does it actually eat birds? Well, yes, occasionally. The name bird-eating isn't just for show. This spider has been known to take down small birds, though it's more of a catching a snack when it's feeling extra hungry kind of situation. Most of the time, it's happier dining on insects and small mammals, like a gourmet dinner party for one. But let's face it, if you were this big, you'd want to show off your skills too. As for the danger factor, despite its intimidating name and monstrous appearance, the Brazilian salmon pink bird-eating tarantula is not a death machine. Sure, it has venom, but its bite is more of an unpleasant pinch than a run-for-your-life situation. In fact, if it happens to bite you, which would require some very poor decisions on your part, the worst you'll get is some swelling and pain. It's like a really awful bee sting, nothing a little ice pack can't fix. Found mostly in Brazil's rainforest, this spider spends its time hanging out in burrows, occasionally emerging to flex its massive legs and look for a meal. In short, the Brazilian salmon pink bird-eating tarantula is big, bold, and surprisingly chill. Just don't ask it to do any bird impressions. It might take that a little too seriously. Number 1. Giant huntsman spider. Meet the giant huntsman spider. A creature so large it could probably do your taxes, walk your dog, and scare you out of your own house, all in one day. With a leg span of up to 12 inches, this spider is essentially a mobile tarp of terror. Imagine a spider the size of a dinner plate, but with 8 hairy legs and a hunger for anything that moves. You might think it's a scene from a horror movie, but nope. This spider's real, and it's roaming around like it owns the place. Native to Southeast Asia, particularly parts of Cambodia, Laos, and Vietnam, this spider is often found lurking in caves, trees, and occasionally your nightmares. It's not shy about its size. It knows it's the alpha predator of the jungle and is very much aware that it can probably outrun you. A humbling thought, isn't it? The huntsman is named for its remarkable speed. It doesn't just move, it sprints. The next time you're out for a jog, just remember, a huntsman could lap you in seconds. It's not called the giant huntsman for nothing. But don't panic. Despite looking like the creature that lives under your bed and taunts you in your sleep, the giant huntsman spider is not dangerous to humans. Its bite may hurt and cause some swelling, but it's not a venomous monster that'll send you to the hospital. Think of it as the annoying cousin who always shows up uninvited but only steals your snacks and doesn't actually hurt you. So, while the giant huntsman spider might send you running for the hills, it's not out to get you. Just a very large, very fast arachnid trying to mind its own business in the jungles of Southeast Asia. Just remember, don't mess with it, and you'll both be fine. And there you have it, the 20 massive spiders that will have you questioning your life choices and whether you really needed that extra cup of coffee today. From the Goliath birdeater, which is basically a dinner plate with legs, to the giant huntsman, who might just sprint past you in a race, these arachnids aren't just big, they're bold. But fear not, while they're technically dangerous to insects, humans are mostly off the menu. So next time you find yourself face to face with one of these 8-legged giants, just remember, it's probably more scared of you than you are of it. Probably.